Judges Corner is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com and gatheringmagic.com. Support our show by visiting both websites. Now it's time for Judges Corner with David Green.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Judges Corner. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Lifelink, which is a static ability that applies to damage from permanents or creatures. Basically, whenever a thing with Lifelink deals damage, you gain life equal to the damage dealt by it instantaneously. So, let's say you have a Blood Baron, and it attacks a player or planeswalker. If it's blocked by another creature, when you deal damage to the creature, you're going to gain life equal to the damage dealt. Or if it gets through and hits the player or planeswalker, you'll still gain 4 life. Next, let's go ahead and talk about the different ways that you don't gain life through Lifelink. So let's say that you're attacking with a Blood Baron, and your opponent decides to block with a Chameleon Colossus. When the Blood Baron goes to deal damage, all of its damage will actually be prevented by protection. So, unfortunately, you won't deal any damage. And because you didn't deal any damage, you won't actually gain any life. Also, if nothing is there when damage would be dealt, perhaps because you were blocked by Ravenous Baloth, and they sacrificed it to gain 4 life before damage, then you won't actually deal any damage to any of the blockers or to the opponent, so no life is gained. This changes a bit when you have Trample, but that's only because Trample will still punch through if something is blocked and removed, and then Lifelink does its thing. Before Lifelink was ever a keyword mechanic, there were cards that read, whenever this creature deals damage, you gain that much life. For a time, they were errated to be Lifelink, but that was reversed shortly after. What this means is that the controller of the creature with Lifelink will gain life, and not necessarily the owner of Lifelink. However, with effects like Spirit Link, the owner of the enchantment, and not necessarily the controller of the creature enchanted with it, will gain the life. Unlike First Strike or Double Strike, Lifelink applies to the mechanic Fight, because it applies to any damage that source deals. So, when pitted in a fight, an Ajani Sunstriker will also net you some life in its one-on-one duel. Lifelink isn't limited to just creature-on-creature damage. Take, for example, a Purphoros, God of the Forge, attacking alongside 2 Boros Reckoners and a Vizkopa Guildmage. The opponent in this example decides to murder a Boros Reckoner right after you've activated and resolved the Guildmage's ability, targeting your god, but before we ever reach damage. Unfortunately, this will turn your god into a lifeless enchantment, but it never loses lifelink. In the second main phase, we decide to cast another Guildmage, triggering the god's ability to deal damage to each opponent. When this happens, we'll gain as much life as the trigger deals to each opponent. In a multiplayer game, we'll gain even more life if even more opponents are affected. The last couple of things I want to talk about involve equal exchanges with Lifelink. Say, for example, you're being attacked by 2 deadly bear cubs, while only at 2 life, and you have an Ajani Sunstriker to protect you from the cute onslaught. If you block one, you'll end up gaining 2, but you'll also lose 2 at the same time from the unblocked cuddly little killing machine. Your net life will remain at 2, since Lifelink is a static ability and happens automatically, but something did happen here. You gain 2 life, so effects like Archangel of Thune will trigger, and you lost 2 life, so things like Exquisite Blood will still occur. And when multiple things with Lifelink attack, they'll trigger life-gaining effects multiple times, like with Archangel of Thune. Things that trigger off damage will also trigger multiple times off of those multiple attacks, like with Edric. But multiple instances of damage in the damage step will only result in 1 instance of loss of life for things like Exquisite Blood, or when a Boros Reckoner takes damage. Reckoner would only deal 4 damage with its triggered ability if it were blocked by 2 Sunstrikers, and not 2 and 2 divided as you choose. A couple of last things I want to mention about Lifelink is that it actually functions in every zone. So for example, if you could deal damage with something in Exile with Lifelink, or something that's on the stack with Lifelink, you would gain life equal to the damage dealt. However, I can't think of any good examples of how you could accomplish this. Also, if something with Lifelink, or something that was given Lifelink, is killed before its effect that deals damage resolves, you use last known information to determine if it did or didn't have Lifelink the last time it was on the battlefield. So in those cases, it would have Lifelink and you would gain the life. So, that concludes our episode. If you have any questions, make sure to send us an email at judgescorner@gatheringmagic.com. And until next time, make sure to shuffle thoroughly, play at a reasonable pace, and have fun.